Vox of all Voxes ever to Vox. Alan Roach, he joins 9 to noon, voice of U.S. Bank Stadium, Colorado Avalanche games at Ball Arena, and also the Super Bowl. And Roachy joins us now. What a fun gig this one is, being the in-stadium Vox for Super Bowls. How excited are you, Alan?
Good morning, PA. Just walking up to Levi's Stadium right now for a day of rehearsals. The excitement is building, but like today and tomorrow are for a guy like me who's used to only working a couple hours a day, these next couple of days are pretty long.
Hey, your favorite football team, the Minnesota Vikings. All right, so clearly last Friday, 6 days ago, we had some news involving the general manager, somebody we both know quite well, Rob Brzezinski, is the acting general manager, at least through the draft. But some new Vikings news just popped. They just hired somebody with a pretty nice resume, and Nordo's going to carry us through it.
Yeah, they've added Matt Thomas. He's a football administration consultant, so he's going to be assisting not only Rob Brzezinski, but Emily Battis and company through the 2026 NFL Draft. And Matt Thomas, frankly, this is the first time I'm hearing about Matt, but I can see why his background is going to be awesome here. 2 decades plus salary cap executive, and his point is going to be helping personnel, football admin, ops, while this unique offseason unfolds clearly. But he began with the Dolphins. Was there for looks like 11 years, serving as vice president, general counsel, and football admin. And then he was most recently 11 seasons, 2013 through 24, with the Seahawks as vice president of football operations, which means he's working with their GM, John Schneider and company, overseeing the team's salary cap and contract negotiations. He retired following the 2024 season. So long career. Capology and consulting, the name of the game for Matt Thomas, now a member with the Vikings.
Vox, all hands on deck with the change to get ready for free agency and the draft. Sounds like they got a good one.
Apparently, my resume wasn't good enough. I sent it in.
Did you really? What, by carrier pigeon?
I applied too, yeah. Didn't work out, didn't get a call back.
Now, with the Super Bowl and the Super Bowls that you voxed before in stadium, what about that Super Bowl? New England nipped Atlanta at the wire. Was that one of the most memorable?
Yeah, that was the 28-3 thing. That was pretty cool. I mean, if you ask about memories, I mean, there's so many. There's the David Tyree helmet catch, which always comes to mind.
Yep.
The 28-3. For me personally, just being able for the first time ever to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Super Bowl 40." And then at halftime, I say, "The Rolling Stones."
Wow.
And I thought it would never get any bigger than that.
Yeah. Hey, or Malcolm.
And Prince, the next year, Prince.
Oh, that's
Still
right.
In my book, the best halftime show ever.
What was, so you're at, you're in South Florida for that game, doing the Vox work.
Yep.
And here comes Prince in the Dolphins colors. I mean, super smart. And he's wearing the teal with the orange shirt. Stole the show. One of my, if not my favorite halftime shows ever. But like, how hard truly was it raining there when he performed in it? Was it coming down pretty hard?
From what I remember, we probably got to the stadium at 8 o'clock that morning. It was pouring rain when we got there, and it was pouring rain when we left. And I don't think it ever let up at all during the day.
Remember,
I remember I had a brand new pair of dress shoes, and they were ruined. I threw them away when I didn't even put them in the suitcase to take them home.
Didn't that game start with a Devin Hester kick return touchdown?
That was Devin Hester.
Wow, man, you've seen so
Indeed, and then Peyton Manning, the only Super Bowl Peyton Manning won, right?
Yeah, that's right. It was during a season where Gary Kubiak.
We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning in playoff games and Super Bowls, his record was not great.
Right. Did you vox the Super Bowl at Ford Field?
That was the first one. That was Super Bowl 40 and the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, we have an interview with Steve Hutchinson coming up here shortly. Hall of Fame offensive lineman. He was in that Super Bowl for the Seahawks that year. I mean, the Bill Cowher and the Steelers, they got wide receiver Antoine Randall throwing passes to Hines Ward to score touchdowns. That was the first Super Bowl that you were the Vox. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ford Field. That was the first one?
It was exactly 20 years ago today.
Wow, that's
February 5th, 2006.
That's so awesome. What is Bad Bunny? Are you going to introduce Bad Bunny? And is the halftime show going to be good?
I think they have their own pre-produced. I'll find out tomorrow. We rehearse some of that stuff tomorrow. But the last few years, they pre-produce their intro, so I don't get to intro the halftime show. And Bad Bunny, I'm not getting into all the political ramifications, but the NFL, obviously, take a look at what's going on with games.
Yeah,
they're all about increasing the game internationally.
Yeah.
And if Taylor Swift is not the number one act internationally, then Big Bunny is.
Are you kidding me?
Or Bad Bunny.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, Bad Bunny. All right, yeah, that's cool. Sounds great. Can't wait. How are you? Did you Vox Ball Arena last night with your Avs? They got a big victory against San Jose.
No, I've been here since last weekend. I did the Pro Bowl games on, what night was that? Tuesday night.
Yep. May I ask a respectful question, because I have no idea how it happened? How did Shedeur Sanders end up in the Pro Bowl?
Well, apparently there were about 17 other quarterbacks from the AFC that said no.
Oh, it was like that. Okay, I got it. Yeah, well, good for him. So Alan being the Ball Arena Vox for Avs games, even though you didn't see the victory or Vox the victory against Macklin Celebrini last night, I think you know from afar, Mr. Roach, the Minnesota Wild have gotten quite good with Quinn Hughes. Could be some high-level hockey between us and you on the horizon, Vox. What do you think about that?
Yeah, we've been talking about that. And the Avalanche have, I think was their best. They were maybe 31-2 or 33-2. And since that time, I think the Avs have maybe lost 7 out of 10, 8 out of 12, something like that.
Yeah.
So they're kind of in the midst of it could be, hey, we're so far ahead we can kick our feet up for a little while. But, once the Avs get Gabe Landeskog back and get Devon Taves back and we get back from this Olympic break, hopefully things pick back up again.
How much men's Olympic hockey will you watch, Alan?
I will be announcing men's Olympic hockey.
You're in Milan? Are you kidding me? You're going to Milan?
4 hours after the Super Bowl.
Bro, that's
I have a 1 a.m. flight out of SFO for Milan. I got to go to Newark first.
Hey, you better.
I get to spend a few hours in EWR
out Red Rocks way.
Yeah, I arrive in Milan on Tuesday.
Oh wow!
Local time at 10 a.m. and at 6 p.m. that night, I'm announcing USA versus Canada women.
I mean, it's to the point where you need 2 mailboxes for all these envelopes coming in. I mean, geez,
I have a big mailbox, PA.
Yeah. Where you can talk about your
big
mailbox.
Oversized one, big huge one.
Another time. Well, do you, ladies and gentlemen, blah, 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 Brock Faber, do they have like somebody doing it in Italian also? Or do you handle the Faccio Bella, cara mia?
There is an English-speaking announcer and a Italian-speaking announcer for everything that takes place in the game, penalties, goals, starting lineups, all of that. And then once you get to the medal rounds, then they add in a French announcer for the medal ceremonies.
Wow.
And the reason being is that French is the traditional official language of the Olympic Games.
So there's a chance, of course, that you have the opportunity when this thing comes to fruition to say, ladies and gentlemen, we now present the gold medal winning men's hockey team. It is Team USA. I mean, like you introduced that?
I've had the opportunity to introduce that twice.
Geez, that's
once
fantastic.
in Salt Lake City, once in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
It was the USA versus Canada both times, and Canada won both those games. Joe Sakic was player of the game in Salt Lake City, and Sid the Kid in Vancouver, and beat the USA both times. So, yeah, I have that opportunity.
My daughter, Coley, and your surrogate niece just texted me that her and a friend are heading to Winter Park to ski today. Speaking of skiing in Colorado, do a lot of elite skiers in the Olympics come from Colorado?
They train, and it's funny, Lindsey Vonn, who is from where?
Minnesota.
Okay. Anytime you hear any of the 5 local TV stations in Colorado talk about Lindsey Vonn, her name is Colorado's own Lindsey Vonn.
Oh,
and the reason is because, when she was 16, 17, whatever, she moved to Colorado and trained in Colorado.
Right.
And so, and the U.S. Olympic Training Center for all sports is in Colorado Springs. So just about every athlete in the Olympics, Colorado claims as their own, but they're all usually born somewhere else, but they quote unquote live in Colorado at some point.
Everybody knows the voice, but nevertheless, Alan Roach, Vox of all Voxes, ever to Vox, voice of U.S. Bank Stadium, Ball Arena, the Olympics, Super Bowl, whole thing. And he's with us now from Santa Clara, California, either in or outside of Levi Stadium, where we will hear him this weekend with Super Bowl 60. Will you be, Alan, from Slayton, Minnesota, will you be able to watch Sam Darnold live without thinking of Week 18 at Detroit last year?
I won't lie. There was a time during the playoff game, I guess it was the NFC Championship. There was a time during that game where I'm like, okay, I want Sam to throw 3 picks in the next 3 series.
Oh, come on, man.
And of course, it didn't happen. And after the game, I'm glad it didn't happen, because what does that do for a Viking fan? Does that really make us feel any better? And how long does it make you feel better?
Right.
I remember my memory, and what makes me love Sam Darnold and makes me want to root for Sam Darnold is that video after, I believe it was the Green Bay Packer game at U.S. Bank Stadium, when he came in the locker room and the Vikings, put him on their shoulders, and there's beer and champagne or water or whatever it is being splashed all over him. That's what Sam Darnold did to a team only being there for 1 year. And he's done that with the Seattle Seahawks team as well. And what that tells me is guys who get paid a lot of money to play a game and need to find someone as a leader, find that leader and that leadership in Sam Darnold. And that makes him a pretty cool dude, and I'm pulling for him.
Beautifully described. Will you be able, Sunday night, will you be able to call Stefon Diggs live without thinking about the Minneapolis Miracle?
We just talked about that yesterday too. Somebody asked, where were you when that happened? And I point down to the ground right in front of me and I say, that happened right there on the 34-yard line. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I heard you talking with Gary Kubiak a little while ago, heard the end of that. And there's, the way the NFL works now, there's ties to every team. You can be a Cincinnati Bengal and look at this game and find a player or two or a coach that has ties to the Bengals or the Browns or whoever you want. So, the players move around so much, it doesn't matter anymore. But Stefon Diggs he's changed, I think, a bit since his first couple of years as a Minnesota Viking. Would you agree?
I believe after the Miracle, and then we got different endorsements on TV like Geico and stuff. Yeah, I think something changed with Steph at that time. But that's just my opinion. I got no confirmation. But what I would like to close with is this. It's an invitation. We have an invitation for you. If you are interested in coming to Indianapolis in late February, Bursich and I would love to have you join us for some combine shows. Stop! What do you think?
I arrive home from Italy on February 24th, so I can't think of anything more enjoyable than arriving home, unpacking, and then packing for Indianapolis. That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Vox, do you ever get up to Vegas or over to Vegas to see Harper and take in a Golden Knights game?
I haven't yet, but you know that I'll be going there for, it'll be games 3 and 4 of a series as we sweep the Golden Knights and move on to the next.
Oh, nobody better. Love you very much, bud. Great corresponding with you during the last 2 weeks. But overall, as usual, God bless you and your family, man. Safe travels to Milan. And we're gonna call you when you're in Milan, just in case you have some time. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be there all through February after Tuesday, so call anytime. Oh, and I wanted to mention, I don't know if this made social media.
What happened?
In the Pro Bowl on Tuesday, at halftime, they had the corgi races. Have you talked about this?
No.
So you remember we have corgi races once a year at U.S. Bank Stadium at halftime. And
right.
Sometimes you announce them, and sometimes you say, no, Roach is doing it. I'm not doing this.
No, I don't say it that way. We've had corgi races at Canterbury Park for up to 2 decades. We were OD, original dog. So we were OD with the corgis. Everybody pilfered what we've done, and now they're profiting off Canterbury Park, but that's okay. And if they have corgi races next year, I mean, I can't promise to not push it off on you, but nevertheless, thank you.
I'll remind you that it's your turn next year.
Yeah.
So they have corgi races in many of the football stadiums all around the NFL. So there were 12 corgi dogs, including Clyde, who won at the Vikings this year, that were in the Pro Bowl corgi race. So I watched the first rehearsal race.
Yeah.
Clyde won.
Wow.
I watched the second rehearsal race. Clyde won.
Wow.
So then we get to the actual Pro Bowl games, halftime. Here it is. This is the Pro Bowl Corgi Championship.
Yeah.
And no kidding, with 7 yards left in the race, Clyde is in 5th place.
Oh.
He somehow won that race.
Go Clyde!
Clyde, the Minnesota Vikings corgi, is the Pro Bowl Vikings championship, and he has broken the curse. Let's go, Vikings. Goal.
And after the race, they probably tested him to make sure he doesn't have any Dalmatian or Greyhound in him. And we all are awaiting the test results. I love you, buddy. Safe travels, all right?
All right, thank you, guys.
Alan Roach, Fox of all Voxes, ever to Vox. Cash thing, then HOF.
The Fan wants to give you a shot at some bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. This hour's keyword is gold. You might win some bonus bucks by entering the keyword gold at KFAN.com.
Up before the show with HOF guard for Seattle, Minnesota, and Tennessee, Steve Hutchinson. Also played in the Super Bowl with the Seahawks. And our Covenant Catch-Up started with HOF and discussing his life in Nashville.
I am. I'm in Nashville. We had a sure you've heard by now. We've had a little bout of winter weather that this part of the country is not super used to seeing. The difference between down here and up in Minnesota is it never really gets warm enough to have ice up there. But yeah, we're still dealing with it. There's a lot of trees down, a lot of power outages, all that stuff. But yeah, Nashville overall is good. With the exception of the ice storms.
Well, for Nashville, obviously, is a vacation destination for many. And, Broadway and .20 and slick conditions, that just doesn't seem to go together that well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's kind of like clockwork. You see everybody kind of usually flies in on Thursday, takes Friday off, and makes a 3-day weekend out of it. And, just like you said, hit Broadway and all the sites downtown, and it is kind of an outdoor adventure. So when you're bar hopping and you're going from music venue to restaurant, it can be, and it's not flat either. There's some hills downtown. So icy sidewalks and alcohol, they don't make a good combination.
You follow the Predators at all? The Wild were there last night, beat them in overtime.
No, I do. I'll catch up, on the local news and the local sports and all that, but haven't been following too much. I know that they just had a GM step down, so but no, missed that one. It's I tell you what though, just hockey to me, hockey's fun for me when you're there in person. It's one of those games that I think it's one of the best spectator sports live because it's fast, it's smaller venue, it's more intimate, and it's fun going to those games. But I haven't been in a couple years.
Steve Hutchinson, 9 to noon, HOF. I don't know how frequently you chat with former teammate Chad Greenway, but over the last month and change, specifically when the temps here got to like -20, -40 with the wind chill, Chad's talking about his girls and they're high-end athletes in high school here. One's going to the University of Kentucky to play basketball next year. So he low-key, like on the radio at the Friday Football Feast, have been dropping hints that he may move to Nashville. And I'm like, well, if you need the best boiled peanuts you'll ever find, make sure you find Steve Hutchinson. But I don't know if you talked to Chad. I don't know how seriously he is, but he might move to Nashville.
Yeah. We do talk. We're on a group text. There's a bunch of us, our usual suspect crew from the Vikings days in the mid 2000s. First of all, I mean, how about that stock of kids they got? I mean, every one of them is just a star, athlete stud. Of course, like you said, Madden going to Kentucky, and it's fun following along and watching them and their success. And I did talk to Chad briefly via text the other day, and I think he's for a Dakota kid to finally say, you know what, with these winners, that means they must be getting brutal, or the amount of years he spent dealing with it is taking its toll, because he's talking about going where the winners don't last as long. But I think a lot of that too is and having a parent, being a parent and having kids that are kind of out of the house and in college. It's not the end of the world to kind of want to be a little bit closer to them. Kentucky's right up the road from Nashville here, so it makes sense.
Hey, Hutch, before we start chatting about the Seattle days and the Super Bowl and stuff like that, another one of your former teammates, don't know if he's in the group chat or not, but big ticket, Kevin Williams, a finalist for the 2026 Hall of Fame, the modern era version. What an excellent player he was. He was a great teammate too, right?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin was best of both worlds. You nailed it. Like, great teammate, unbelievable locker room guy, leadership, brought it every day, and but hell of a player as well. Certainly Hall of Fame worthy, in my opinion. He was a guy that I had to go against day in and day out for years, as you know, and I always tell people it's like he's the closest person to like having to go against myself. It was like blocking a mirror, because we were about the same size. Kevin was, had no business being that big and that athletic and slippery, to be able to try to keep him locked down, whether it run or pass. And, I'm just glad that, he's getting the recognition now. Being a finalist is great. I mean, it just means that, you're really close, and whether it happens or not this year, I would hope that the voters, recognize his career, and sometimes I think people can get lost in numbers of where you stack up to other guys and where they've, are in the Hall of Fame standing, if they're in, if they're not. And I think sometimes you need to look at, what that person meant to some of the other guys around him and the success of the other guys because of what he did on the field. So I think it's big picture, but all that to say, I'm happy for Kevin and the recognition he's getting, because he's been out a few years now, and it's starting to pick up, and people are starting to remember what he did for the Vikings and football in general.
This is Steve Hutchinson, a former guard for the Minnesota Vikings, one of the great offensive linemen in the history of the NFL. He's a Hall of Famer and came into the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks out of Michigan. Also played for the Vikings and the Tennessee Titans. And Steve, given Seattle brought you into the league, do you find yourself absolutely pulling for them, not only to win Sunday, but to win Super Bowls?
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, like you said, I had been drafted there, played my first 5 years there, and my last game before becoming a Viking was the Super Bowl in Detroit, Super Bowl 40 against Pittsburgh. So, have played, was a part of the first Super Bowl team in franchise history there, although we didn't come up with the win. But was a fan all along. And then, for the past 8 years, I've actually worked for them as in a consulting role, helping to draft some of their linemen and evaluate college linemen. So I do kind of have a little bit of a, more of just a fan's perspective to root for them. I kind of see these guys that I had a hand in drafting, and they're, having success, and gotten to know a lot of the guys on the team, and of course all the front office guys I work with, and the coaching staff. So yeah, it'll be fun for me to watch this one and cheer them on.
Steve, now, Steve always could do without, I'm speaking for you here, but I think I'm accurate, could always do without much media and or attention. So that Super Bowl, in Detroit, Ford Field against the Steelers, I'm guessing when you played in that Super Bowl with the days leading up to that game, that it was just kind of a necessary evil for you, all of the things going on with the Super Bowl outside of the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm sure a lot's changed in 20 years, PA. I've been to a couple Super Bowls over the past couple years. I was in New Orleans last year for not so much the game. I try to get out of Dodge before the game actually happens. It's an insider secret. If you're going down there for all the festivities, it's best to leave the morning of the game, because the airport's dead. But there is a lot of stuff going on. There's parties, there's all kinds of things going on. And so, but they usually do a good job of keeping the teams pretty well insulated from all that. Usually the team hotels are, if they're not off the beaten path, they're locked down. And they try to make it as normal of a game week and for the guys. Now, granted, a normal game week, you'd be in your own facility and doing your own routine, but they try to replicate that as good as possible. And I think the teams that actually play well in the Super Bowl traditionally are the teams that try to make it as business as usual. But yeah, it was, you grow up watching all the Super Bowls, especially for me growing up in Florida and seeing all these Super Bowls back in Miami, and the old film of the games in warm weather climates. And then I make it to the Super Bowl, and it's Detroit in February. And not that that's a bad thing. I spent a lot of time in Michigan in the winters, but I think that one for us was made it a little easier to kind of hunker down, because you weren't really out sightseeing and moving around, even if you had the opportunity, because it was, bitterly cold. And if I remember correctly, there was a pretty good snowstorm that came through Detroit that year. So there wasn't really much to go see and do other than just kind of prepare for the game.
Hey, Hutch, given the recent news here with the Minnesota Vikings, Rob Brzezinski is the acting general manager through the draft. Now, Rob's the man who arranged for Steve to come to Minnesota in 2006, thanks to something known as the poison pill. It reshaped the league. I mean, quite honestly, what do you think about all this with Rob back here? And I know you're quite fond of him, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rob's a great guy. And I think Rob is the type of person that can wear a lot of hats. I think he's, behind the scenes, I think he's done a lot more than what his job description has been over the years. We've kind of gone through this before with Rob, back my first year, if you remember correctly. Fran Foley was the GM for that draft and that free agency period when I was signed there. And then, the Vikes parted ways with Fran after the draft and didn't really hire Rick Spielman until I think it was later early fall or right towards the end of camp. I mean, there was a few months that went by where, Rob and Chili kind of took the reins and filled that void. So, and not to say that this is a similar situation, because Rob is, named acting GM through the draft, but he also has, his other responsibilities that he's had forever. But, I hope they give it a shot to look at him to do that. I think Rob's the type of guy that knows how the building works, knows what it's supposed to look like, knows what all the pieces need to look like in order to fit together. And a lot of that job is in fact that, making sure you have all the right pieces in the right area and lean on the right people and have the communication. So, it'd be interesting to see how that pans out.
Steve Hutchinson, Hall of Fame guard, who played for the Vikings, Seahawks, and Titans. Just a few to close here with some Super Bowl stories. Now, I have some Steve Hutchinson trivia, and here it is. Ready?
I'm ready.
How many times in your career, all right, regular season career, how many times did you have 0 penalties in a season while playing all 16 games?
Oh, geez. I got no idea.
3. Bro, you had 3 16-game seasons where you didn't have any penalties despite playing basically all the plays, which means like no false starts, because HOFs like you, when there's a false start, I mean, you might roll your eyes or shake your head because correct me if I'm wrong here, Steve, false starts are born of just basically not paying attention, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've left the huddle, and you're thinking about, the situation or the play before, or maybe this play and coming up that they just called, and then the last thing is you get up there and you're trying to think of what potentially could happen on this play, and I get up to the line and I go, I just completely forgot what the snap count was on. So there's been multiple times where I've had to kind of subtly ask the center on the way to the line, hey, what's it on? It looks like 3 of those years I happened to do that enough, but where I didn't get the false start. But, yeah, to your point, I think, false starts they happen for a number of reasons. Mostly it's because you got too much going on in your head and you just kind of, you go on one so much in practice. I think guys' bodies just default to wanting to go on one. But those critical situations where you're trying to maybe get a free first down or a critical situation, because 1st and 15 is a hell of a lot harder to convert than 1st and 10 statistically if you look at it. But, yeah, that's something we always kind of prided ourselves on, was not hurting the offense. And I think credit to the guys around me. When you got the guys around you that you feel comfortable with, and you don't have to have a lot of verbal communication all the time, I think you can kind of zero in and remember what the snap count is, which is a huge part of the job description.
All right, just the last one here, Hutch. Appreciate you, HOF, for joining 9 to noon. So the New England Patriots, I mean, they lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, now that team has the first overall pick in the draft. Now, granted, it was the first game of the season, but they probably thought it was bad for business then, but clearly they recovered nicely. How much they're underdogs Sunday night against Seattle on KFAN with the Super Bowl? How much of a chance do you give the Patriots on Sunday?
Well, you never want to vote, rule out Mike Vrabel. I've known Mike a long time. I think he's a hell of a coach. I think you got really two of the better younger coaches in the league going against each other, with Mike, both Mikes, I should say. And Vrabel's just, and having lived here in Nashville when he was the coach of the Titans and seeing kind of what he did there in his relatively short stint, bringing them to an AFC, having some big wins on the road in playoff atmospheres. I think he's going to have those guys. I think he embraces the underdog role. I think he'd rather have that, because it's a lot easier to go in there and, tell your team that nobody gives you a chance and play that whole disrespected role, because honestly, I think it works, especially when you're on the road, and you're on the road either way with the Super Bowl. But when you're, and to my point, they opted as the home team to wear all white because he wants that road, it's us against the world mentality. So all that to say, I think it's going to be a good game. It should be a good game. You got two quarterbacks that both had lights out years. I think it should be a fun one to watch.
HOF Radio. Hey, my brother. Greatly appreciate you for the conference. HOF Radio, Steve Hutchinson. One of the greats. And this should be a good one Sunday night. Listen to it on KFAN. And we will wrap up the show after this. I can't wait. Lots going on today in the Love Covenant, 9 to noon. Thank you very much for listening, if and or when you do. And we just heard from the iHeart National Sports Update, something that was kind of glossed over 9 to noon today, because we went from Kevin Harlan to start the radio show. You'll hear Kevin Sunday night calling Super Bowl 60 at FM 100.3 KFAN. Then 5 minutes before the show, we learned Kirk Cousins was going to join. So we went into scurry mode for that, chatted with Kirk for a good 15 minutes. After that, Gary Kubiak, winner of Super Bowl 50. How about that? 4-time Super Bowl champion. He went to 7 of them.
Yeah.
As a player or coach. Jeez. And his son, Clint Kubiak, coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks this weekend. So good luck to Clint. Then Nacho stopped by after that. Vox of all Voxes, ever to Vox. And you just heard Steve Hutchinson, HOF guard for Seattle. Went to a Super Bowl 20 years ago with the Seahawks and lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then the poison pill was put into play. Hutchinson was here. The Seahawks put the poison pill in a contract for Nate Burleson. Burleson ended up in Seattle. Poison pill thing got so stupid, the commissioner banned it. I mean, he just wrote whatever language needs to be written. After part of the poison pill language Seattle provided in the contract for Nate Burleson was that he could not play in a game as a member of the home team within 30 miles of Metrodome. I mean, it was just starting to get dumb, but the poison pill, Hutch. Then he was with the Vikings the next season, 2006. But Brian Angelico, the former tight ends coach for the Minnesota Vikings, he is a very, very smart man. In fact, back in 2022, when I started doing X's and O's with Kevin O'Connell, and it was in the Vikings Entertainment Network TV studio. And then we would play the audio on Wednesday nights at KFAN. I'll never forget, when I asked KO a question about the red zone offense success, and it was ballyhooed at that moment. And I didn't know where I'm just getting to know the head coach. So I had no idea what he was going to say. He spent a majority of the conversation talking about the red zone savant that Brian Angelico, Vikings tight ends coach, is, and how he has a big, big say in the red zone offense. So I would imagine there was more to Brian than just coaching tight ends, red zone offense. And I congratulate him and wish him well. Quite fond of him. Had a cool game with Brian Angelico. We would play mostly at road games, sometimes on the sideline at home games. Depending, he's a huge baseball fan, and from days gone by, specifically with the New York Mets. So if the Vikings were playing the Green Bay Packers and Angelico and somebody were walking around before the game, just like go on a walk, he'd come by me, and then I would start with a Brewer, Robin Yount, and he'd come back and say Paul Molitor, and then I go Ben Ogilvie, and he'd go Gorman Thomas, and we would walk until he beat me, and he beat me every single time. Because his quick twitch with that game was unbelievable. His quick twitch with offense is very good. And he and Mike McCarthy go back to Green Bay, I believe, and maybe the University of Pittsburgh. So congratulations to the man they call Ange, Brian Angelico, on the elevation to offensive coordinator. And that's going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Excellent work as usual by Nordo, organizing and putting the show together. Thank you very much for listening. May God bless you and all of your families. I'm Paul Allen. This is 9 to noon on FM 100.3 KFAN.
Y'all don't know football.
What's that fool doing?
Good time. That's a great setup, Bob.
We lucky we got 'em.
9 to noon.
Good time.
The game is over. If it's good news or money, leave a message.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.